Hello, everyone, and welcome to Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'll be teaching you how to make Eggs Benedict. This is my favorite breakfast without a doubt, and today we're going to cover everything from a perfectly poached egg to a creamy hollandaise sauce. In fact, I'm even going to show you how to make your own gluten-free English muffins. Let's get started. If you would like to skip the gluten-free English muffin section and jump directly to making the Eggs Benedict, go to 635. For everybody else, the first thing we need to do is bloom or proof our yeast. So in this bowl, I have 3 tablespoons of milk that's at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, and so the yeast has something to eat, we're going to add about a tablespoon and a half of our gluten-free flour mixture. Now stir these ingredients very, very well and allow them to sit at room temperature for a good 10 minutes while we amass all the rest of our ingredients and get on with the recipe. This will give it a chance for that yeast to activate. In this mug, I have 2/3 of a cup milk, 2.5 tablespoons of butter, and to this, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup water. I want to put this in the microwave and let it get hot for about 30 seconds or so until that butter melts and it's just kind of warm to the touch. I'm using my own homemade gluten-free flour blend for breads. Check out the description below for a recipe. Of course, you can always use a commercially available product. That should be fine. Now, each blend is a little bit different, so I'm going to start off with 1.5 cups of flour in my bowl, but chances are I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit more later. That's not a problem. I'll walk you through exactly how we do that so you can adjust this for your own flour blend. Add in 1.5 teaspoons of white sugar, 1.5 teaspoons table salt, and 1 teaspoon baking powder. Thoroughly mix all of your dry ingredients before making a well in the center. Then we're going to pour in our wet ingredients directly into this well. Again, you want to make sure that your butter, milk, and water mixture is hot at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or so. But if it's much, much hotter than that, when we pour our yeast in, it can actually kill them. So make sure that it's not too hot. Now we're going to mix this very, very well. As I said, I started out with 1.5 cups of my gluten-free flour blend. I'm going to have to add a little bit more, and the way that I'm going to tell is by sticking my finger in. You're going to see that it sticks to my finger a lot like cake frosting, indicating that it's much, much too wet, and I'm going to have to add a little bit more flour. However, before we do that, we want to add in our yeast mixture. Our yeast mixture looks great. It's nice and frothy, meaning our yeast is totally alive and active. We want to add all of this mixture into our dough and stir it very, very well. After mixing in the yeast mixture, I'm going to start doing increments of about 1/8 of a cup flour into the bowl and then stirring it in very well. I'm going to check after each installment and check on the consistency. I'm looking for a consistency that is still slightly wet and doughy, of course. However, when you touch it, it shouldn't stick to your finger like it did before. It shouldn't be like cake frosting. So when it reaches this stage, you know you're done. I ended up using 2 cups of flour in total. Now we need to prep up our work surface so we can turn out our dough. I'm going to sprinkle down a little bit of white rice flour or a little bit more of our gluten-free flour blend. That'll be fine. Place our dough ball right on top of that and sprinkle a bit of flour right on top of our dough ball. This is why you wanted your dough to be slightly sticky and a little bit wet as it was in the bowl, because when we turn it out here on the table and do the final last bit of working here, it's going to soak up a little bit more flour and become the perfect consistency. So once it's perfectly hydrated, it should look like this. You can use a rolling pin, but I'm just going to use my hands here to press this out into a disc that's about a 1/2 inch thick. Now, when cutting these out, you can use a knife if you want to make them square or a biscuit cutter. I don't have a biscuit cutter, but I do have a mason jar. And when I take the lid off of the mason jar, I'm left with something that resembles a biscuit cutter and is going to work perfectly for me. When you're a minimalist, all the tools in the kitchen need to be multi-purpose. I'm going to take a little bit more of my flour blend here and run it around the rim so that nothing sticks when I cut out my English muffins. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to go down, like, share, and subscribe. While you're down there, maybe leave a comment. I love to hear from everyone that watches these videos. And definitely check out the description because there's always a recipe included in all of my videos. When cutting out your English muffins, you want to make sure to push down straight. You don't want to twist it as you push down. Then gently just push on the top here to release your English muffin. Once you've gotten as many English muffins as you can from your first round, just take the scraps, roll them in your hands here again, press them out flat into a disc, and continue on with the process. The first time I rolled it out, I was able to cut 5 muffins. I'm rolling it out here for the second time, and I was able to cut two muffins. I'm left with these scraps, but instead of rolling it out and trying to cut it again for a third time, I actually just took the scraps and pressed them into my cutter so that I can make my final muffin just like this. In total, I made exactly 8 English muffins. Place the muffins onto a tray, cover them with a clean towel, and let them rise in a warm place for about 30 minutes. Half an hour later, I've got my pan on a medium heat and I'm going to spread a little bit of oil in. If you would like, you can skip the oil actually and use cornmeal instead and use a dry cooking process. It would be a bit more traditional. After a half an hour, our muffins have risen nicely and are ready to cook. This process is fairly straightforward. When I place them into the pan though, I do like to give them a nice little twist so that way all of the surface on the bottom gets coated with oil and nothing sticks and they cook evenly. We're going to cook them on this first side for about 5 to 7 minutes on a medium heat or until they're nice and golden brown and delicious. It's been about 7 minutes and these are ready to flip. Let's take a look. Yep, looking nice and golden brown and delicious. So we're going to go ahead and flip them over. And just like the first side, I like to give them a nice little twist in the oil to make sure that everything is well coated. Again, we're going to cook them for an additional 5 to 7 minutes on this side. And after another 7 minutes of cooking, these sides look great. They look nice and done. So I'm going to go ahead and double check just by touching them here and around the sides. They all feel nice and firm, so they're ready to pull. You want to put these on a cooling rack. I don't actually have one, but this rack from my little toaster oven should work perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and let them come down to room temperature while I cook the other 4 of my English muffins. With our muffins completed and out of the way, I'm going to move on to the meat next. You can choose to use ham or bacon in this dish. Both are going to work perfectly fine. I'm using ham, but do note that I have a little bit of sliced pork belly in the center here for extra fat. I want my pan to have a little bit of extra rendered fat for a little bit later in the dish, and you're going to see why. Cook up your meat of choice to your desired liking and place it on a paper towel to drain while we work on our Hollandaise sauce. I'll be making a half batch of Hollandaise sauce, which is going to be great for 2 to 3 people. The recipe that I've included in the description below is going to be for a whole batch, and that'll serve about 4 to 5 people. The first thing we want to do is put our egg yolks in a large glass or metal bowl and give them a nice whisk until they're lightened in color a little bit. 1/4 teaspoon white sugar, 1/2 tablespoon freshly squeezed lemon juice, and 1 whole teaspoon of water. Now mix this very well for about 30 seconds to a minute until it's lightened in color and become nice and creamy. It should look like this. My pot of water is boiling in the background because we're going to turn it into a double boiler. That's why I said you needed a large glass or metal bowl because it's going to go right on top. Make sure that your bowl does not touch the water at all. You want the steam to come up and heat your Hollandaise sauce. Stir your Hollandaise sauce continuously for about 20 seconds before we introduce our butter, which I've cut into cubes so it'll melt and integrate easier. Take note, I'm using salted butter. If you're using unsalted butter, you might need to add a little dash of salt to your Hollandaise sauce to make sure the flavor comes out right. Do not stop whisking at all. I like to put my Hollandaise sauce on the heat here for about 20 seconds and then pull it off for about 10 seconds. This will help even out that heat and make sure that you don't end up with scrambled eggs. What you're trying to do here is whisk all of these little butter molecules into the Hollandaise sauce so that it completely emulsifies, and that way you don't have a layer of fat on the top and liquid on the bottom. Again, you want to control your heat, so 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and do not stop whisking. After about a minute, minute and a half, you should have a nice, fully emulsified sauce that looks like this. Give it a quick taste and adjust any seasonings that might be necessary. If you have a thermos, pour it into your thermos and store it there while you make the rest of your Eggs Benedict. I don't have one, so I poured mine into a coffee mug and then wrapped that with a towel. This should keep your sauce more than hot enough until you're ready to serve. However, if you absolutely have to, you can gently reheat this over the double boiler again. However, don't overheat it, and I would avoid putting it in the microwave because if it gets too hot, your sauce will break. Once it breaks, it's pretty much useless to you. We need to toast our English muffins, and of course you could use a toaster or a toaster oven. Remember from earlier, I have that rendered pork fat in my pan, so I'm going to go ahead and use that to toast up my English muffins. Hey, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. When opening your muffins, you can absolutely cut them with a knife. However, my wife's family's English, and they would completely disown me if I did that, so I'm going to do as the Queen intended and use a fork to open them. This will help retain those nooks and crannies that we built, and we're going to let it toast here in the rendered pork fat while we make our poached eggs. I'm going to poach my eggs in the water that was in the double boiler. I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar, about a tablespoon or so, to the water. This is going to increase the acidity level, which will help denature the proteins in the egg whites and help them coagulate faster. Basically, the egg whites are going to firm up a little faster and look a little bit nicer. Most recipes call for making a vortex in the water here by spinning it and then cracking your egg directly into the middle. This will help hold the egg white together, and this does work if you're making one egg. But if you're making more than one egg like us, it just doesn't work that well. That's why I like this technique. I crack my egg into a little coffee mug and then very gently pour it in. This works fairly well to hold your egg whites together. Also, take note that our water isn't even at a bare simmer. There are some bubbles that are forming on the bottom, but it is not simmering or boiling. If you have a heavy simmer or boil, it's going to rip apart your egg whites and they won't cook up that well. We're going to poach our eggs for about 3 to 5 minutes. 3 minutes if you like a nice runny yolk, 5 minutes if you like a nice firm yolk. Let's check on our English muffins, and they're toasting up very nicely. That rendered pork fat is going to take us straight to Flavor Town. Now, I like a nice runny yolk, so I've let them cook here for about 3 minutes and they're ready to pull. You want to make sure to drain off any excess moisture very, very well before putting them on a plate. Additionally, if you would like, you can place them onto some paper towels. That way it will wick away any excess water before we put them onto our English muffins. And my favorite part, assembly. We have our deliciously toasted English muffins on a plate here, and we're going to place a slice of ham or bacon, depending on what you're using, right on top. Our poached eggs go on top of the ham. Take a look at these, they look fantastic. Our whites are beautifully set because we had the vinegar in the water and it was at the right temperature when we cooked them. Because I'm filming, this hollandaise sauce sat in this cup wrapped up in a hand towel for about 30 minutes. However, it is still fantastic, perfectly emulsified and looking great. A nice big spoonful of our hollandaise goes on top of each of our poached eggs. And since you guys now know how to make hollandaise sauce at home, don't forget this goes fantastic on things like asparagus, fish, broccoli, potatoes. Trust me, you're going to find 1,001 uses for it. Now let's take a look at our handiwork. I'm going to cut into this egg, which I've poached for about 3 minutes, and this looks perfect to me. Nice and creamy, absolutely delicious. Guys, it really is just that easy to make this delicious gluten-free Eggs Benedict at home tonight. Thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope to see you all again here next time on the next episode of Minimalist Gourmet.